everyone, this is Vishnu Lakiani and welcome to a special Wildfit Masterclass. Now I don't know how you found this masterclass, but I probably know why you're here. You're here because at some level you're looking to make a change in regards to your health, to your well-being, in regards to your relationship with food. And you're in the right place because I'm so excited to bring this class to you because I am the result of Wildfit. Now, let me explain what that means. I want to flash to you a picture of what I look like in the first week of Wildfit, when as part of the program, I was asked to take a picture of myself. This is me. Now, this is me 3 months later after completing the program. As you can see, my body dramatically transformed. Now, for those of you who might think that that is a trick of lighting, let me actually give you some data. In the first picture, I was at 22% body fat. In the second picture, I was at 15% body fat, which for a 40-year-old male is considered excellent. But that's not just the reason that I'm such a fan of Wildfit. A number of other things changed. My self-confidence improved. I was starting to gray. And what I noticed is in the 4 years since I've done Wildfit, I've stopped graying. I also had a bald patch that was developing in my head, and for whatever reason, that started disappearing too. But beyond that, I found that my energy had transformed. My cognition, I seemed to be able to be more fluid in my thinking. I was able to access flow states more and show up better at work. You see, a lot of people come onto Wildfit because they know about its remarkable transformation on their body shape. They lose weight. But what they don't know is that Wildfit transforms your entire health, and you end up in 3 months a completely different person. So what I did then was I got Wildfit introduced to my mom and my dad. They are 70 years old, and a doctor had told my dad on his 70th birthday that he would be unlikely to live for another 5 years. And when I heard that, I knew I had to intervene. Wildfit had transformed my health, so I got my parents on it. My mother lost 5 kilograms. That's about 11 or 12 pounds. And in her case, the transformation was dramatic. My dad transformed. He had more energy. Walking up the stairs again was easy for him. And I remember the day my dad told me that to hell with what the doctor said. He is going to live to see his 80th birthday. Now, I ended up bringing Wildfit to my family, to not just older folks, but to younger folks. This is my cousin, Jonathan Lakiani. Look at his transformation. Jonathan is a teenager, and in school, he was the kid who wasn't very good at sports and was rather chubby. Jonathan lost 18 kilograms on Wildfit. And for a teen, you can see what this would do for his self-confidence, for the way he showed up. But not only that, his thinking got better. He was doing better at his exams. So the next step was, after I'd introduced Wildfit to my family, I needed to introduce it to my team. See, I saw how it improved my level of thinking. I had more energy at work and my thinking was more fluid. Today, we know that there's science behind this. Dr. Daniel Amen, America's #1 brain doctor, recently found that for every amount of extra fat you have on your gut or your thighs, it slows down the quality of your thinking. So when you lose weight, you actually become smarter. Think about what this means in terms of how you show up at work, how you perform at your business, how your career progresses. This is not just about looking good and getting healthy. This is about making more money, showing up better at work. So I decided I wanted to bring this to everyone in my company. Out of 200 employees, I had 100 employees of Mindvalley join Wildfit. And the results were incredible. And he wasn't the only one. This man lost 51 pounds. He told me, he was such a big guy, that he couldn't shop at regular stores like H&M or Zara. He said that every time he walked into one of those stores with his wife or with other friends, he knew that nothing on the shelves would fit him. And I remember the day he told me that for the first time he walked into a clothing store, it was Uniqlo, and he could buy something that fit his body. This was the result of dropping 51 pounds. And 2 out of 100 people lost that much. That was the record. Almost everyone else had incredible transformations. And I cannot tell you the amount of women who went through this program and said that it completely transformed how confident they were in their body. Check out this picture of Maria. Check out this picture of Madeline. So after 100 of my employees transformed their health, I thought I have to bring this to Mind Valley. And so Mind Valley back then was a meditation company. And I was so good at meditation, but I wasn't paying attention to my health. So many of us are like that. We get the mind power thing. We focus on productivity, we focus on meditation. We forget that health is at the core of everything else. And so when I introduced this to Mind Valley, the first group of Wildfitters. Now back then, Wildfit was about 3 times more expensive than it is right now. These people paid close to $1,500 to get into the program. And in that first batch itself, over 90% of participants saw results. And let me repeat that, 90% of participants saw results, and over 1,000 people were enrolled. The testimonials filled our website. Check out this lady, Virginia Salas. Virginia was voted by Snapchat as one of the top female influencers on Snapchat. Look at her transformation. It transformed her to such a degree that she was at one point ashamed of her body. After Wildfit, she was comfortable putting up a social media post of her in a bikini, and she wasn't the only one. You can go to stories.mindvalley.com, choose Wildfit, and literally read hundreds upon hundreds of stories of people from all around the world who transformed their health. And many of these stories you will see were the result of a health transformation just from watching this masterclass. So I want you to commit right now. Eric at Me Too, I'm about to bring on, is going to give you his best. And I want you to give us your best. Have a journal out. Have a pen handy. Turn off all distractions. No Facebook, no Instagram. Make sure you're paying attention, because this masterclass, for the vast majority of you, is going to be a pivot point in your life. And one of the best things about Wildfit is that not only will it change your life, but like me, you're going to want to introduce it to everyone else. Many of you who are here because a friend told you about Wildfit. That's how effective this is. So put your hand on your chest and repeat after me. I'm going to play all out, and I'm going to take action today for the sake of my health and the health of my family. All right, let's get ready to begin. Now first, a fascinating story of how I met Eric. So I'm an author and the founder of Mind Valley. I wrote 2 New York Times best-selling books, and I was invited to join an exclusive group of America's top coaches and authors. It's called the Transformational Leadership Council. Many of the top authors in business and personal growth are members of this group. And in 2016, this group was holding a mastermind in Costa Rica. There were about 120 people over there. And I was a new member, so I showed up, and I noticed that there was this one guy called Eric. Everyone loved him, and people in the group were raving about how Eric changed their life. When I walked into this mastermind, I was a fresh member, and I saw people greeting each other and going, "Oh my God, you've changed so much. Look at how much weight you've dropped." It turned out Eric was a member of this group, and he had given a Wildfit experience to the members. On the last night of this mastermind, I actually saw Eric get an award from this group for the change that he had brought. And remember, this was not an ordinary group of people. These were America's top teachers, authors, business coaches. Many of them had excelled in one aspect of personal growth, but they weren't paying attention to their body, or they had given up, because like so many Americans, they'd been lied to and misled by the diet industry and the big food companies for decades. Now, as it turned out, this meeting happened 2 weeks after my 40th birthday. I turned 40, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and going, gosh, I feel and look like hell. But I stopped there. I accepted it. I assumed a dad bod was normal. I assumed losing my hair and graying was normal. I assumed that having a double chin was normal. This again is a picture of what I look like before Wildfit. This is a picture 2 years later. Notice how the results stayed. I didn't just lose weight, it stayed off. Now, because I just turned 40, I went directly to Eric and I said, Eric, how can I be part of this program? I really want to experience this. And Eric signed me up for the next class he was doing. It was March. And of course, in that first week of the class, I had to take that first picture to be honest with myself and to keep track of how my weight was going to change. Now, before I continue, I want you to notice something. I showed you my body transformation, but let me show you my face transformation. This is 2 pictures of myself taken by the same photographer. As an author, I sometimes have to have professional headshots taken. The first picture you're seeing is a picture of my face before Wildfit. The second picture, same photographer, after Wildfit. Notice how much younger I look. When you do Wildfit and you drop that weight, it literally makes you look so much more radiant, so much more healthy. When I look at old pictures of myself from 4 years ago, I feel like I've gotten younger. And that's the way you're likely to feel as well when you start acting on the advice and information you're going to get here. Now, I did Wildfit and it transformed me. But one of the biggest questions I get is, who is this Eric guy? He's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. Why should I trust him? Well, let me give you a little bit about Eric. Eric is a guy who is a brilliant entrepreneur. Now, he started a medical simulation company that won awards from the US Army and Congress. And in fact, he is so good at what he does that in 2018, the Canadian Senate awarded him with a medal for his work in transforming health. But the story of how he stumbled upon Wildfit is a story that's truly intriguing. You see, Eric had spent 10 years with the Hadza Bushmen in Africa studying the way of life of one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes on the planet. And it was during one of these stints hunting with the Hadza that he stumbled upon the idea that would give him the clues to Wildfit, and ultimately the idea that may end the dieting industry for good. Now let's talk about that for a moment. In this masterclass, you're going to hear some things which are going to shatter what you've come to believe. I've been acting as a food activist for many years. I've released videos against Nestle, against Coca-Cola. My videos have caused companies like Nestle to see the Australian and New Zealand government downgrade their health ratings because of the lies they put in their packaged product. I've been a food warrior for many years, and my videos have gone viral in many societies across the world, including Pakistan, India, Malaysia, places where big food companies have been brainwashing people. But the extent of this brainwashing is going to become apparent to you in this masterclass. But what you're going to see is that it's not just the food companies. A lot of the brainwashing is coming from exercise companies and diet companies. There is a better way to human health, and this is what we're going to unwrap for you. I want you to have an open mind. And the first key idea is this: people don't fail diets. Diets fail people. We'll come to this in a bit. Let's bring Eric onto the set. Eric, welcome to Mind Valley.
Thanks for having me, Vishen. Good to be back.
And we're also celebrating our 10,000th Wildfit student.
Good deal.
Which is really exciting. So one of the biggest questions people have, and I'd love for you to start with this, is how you stumbled upon Wildfit, because the story is so fascinating.
Yeah, it started for me with just being sick. I was I was suffering. I had all kinds of pervasive allergies, stomach cramps that would make it impossible to think, cystic acne. I'd been to see doctors and specialists and been prescribed every pill and inhalant and injection and even surgeries. And one day I sat down with some friends, and they just sort of started talking to me about food. And I was a pretty healthy guy. Like, I didn't think of myself as not eating well. And I tried a little experiment. 30 days later, I had lost 35 pounds, and all of my pains were gone, and my life was completely different. It was so dramatic that I remember flying to go visit my mother, and I came off the plane, walked down the steps to greet my mother, and I had my girlfriend with me, and my mother looked at me and didn't see me. She didn't even see me, but she recognized my girlfriend, and that caused her to double take back to me. Like, my face and body was so different.
And this was after experimenting with food for 30 days.
Yeah, just a basic experiment on eliminating a few things, adding a few things, changing my psychology about food. And so that got me curious, like really curious. How is it I could spend 5 years, more than 5 years, visiting doctors and specialists and get no results? And that's before I came to realize that doctors largely are designed to treat symptoms. And so, in fact, I said to one of my doctors one day, like, it was a bit cheeky, but I asked him how long he'd gone to medical school for, and he told me 6 years. And then I asked him, in the 6 years, what percentage roughly was spent on nutrition and food and stuff like that? And he got this kind of bemused look on his face, like, when a dog gets confused and they go, huh? Like, what kind of question is that? But the answer was none. Like, none. I've asked that question now of doctors in 20 countries around the world, and I have found one country that requires nutritional training for their medical training.
What country is that?
Albania.
That's it?
Albania is the only one. Any other time you find a doctor that studied food, It's because they chose it as an elective. It's like pilots choosing landing as an elective. Like, I can't believe that we allow a medical education system where our doctors don't study food. And I figured it like this. If the pilot's not going to study landings, I'd better. If the doctor's not going to study food, I'd better. And that's what started it. That's what got me on the track, which led me to the most fascinating experience of my life. It goes back to this. My great-grandfather was a zoologist and archaeologist, and he found the oldest Homo sapiens skull in history at that point, 259,000 years old. And I remember once holding a cast of it in the museum, and I remember I was about 12 and thinking like, oh, I wish I had a time machine. I wonder what their life was like back then. And then weirdly, I'm in the middle of all this research. I'm studying food, evolution, biology, and I was running a leadership program where I used to take people up Kilimanjaro as team building and stuff. And my logistics partner says to me, do you want to go meet some Bushmen? And I was, what? Like Bushmen? And he explained to me that there was a tribe of Bushmen living near Lake Eyasi in Tanzania, and we could go, and for now 10 years I've been doing that. For 10 years I've been visiting them. I've gotten to know one of the chiefs quite well. We've become quite good friends. I've been studying them, and it has been eye-opening. And so over the space of the last, I don't know, 25 years, I've devoted the vast majority of my curiosity to food, nutrition, health, and the big piece, food psychology.
What was it that you learned from, and these were the Hadza Bushmen?
That's right.
So what were some of the things you learned from studying the Hadza?
The first thing you notice right away is they look good. Like their posture is good, their muscle definition is good, they're healthy. And that's a serious thing. They're healthy. In this picture, check out this hunter. He's pulling back a bow. Look at the muscle definition. This guy's never been to a gym in his life. He's lived in nature. And the other thing that we got from them is that they follow their instincts and they follow their cravings based on what Mother Nature is providing. So they don't ever have to use willpower. They don't ever have to think, oh, I should eat more of that or I should eat less of that. They eat what's available to them, and because that's what Mother Nature is providing at that time. So as the seasons change, the available food changes, and they change their habits accordingly. And it got me thinking a lot about our life and the fact that now we can eat whatever we want, the same every single day. We don't have to have variety at all. So the seasonality that they taught us about is incredibly important.
And is that what sparked the concept, and you guys are going to learn this, of the 4 seasons of Wildfit?
That's exactly right. As I started looking at what it meant that they had to change seasons, I thought about that. It's like in one season, they're eating a lot of root vegetables and they're eating lots of like ripening fruits that are on the trees, right? In that season, their body is going to behave a certain way. The pancreas is going to do a certain job at that point in time. It's going to process sugar. But when they move out of that season and they move into spring, when they move into a season where there aren't root vegetables so available, when there's definitely not fruit on the trees, their pancreas changes jobs. Now, I didn't learn this from them. I saw the behavior in them, and then I started doing the research and found the pancreas handles both of those jobs. But the average person in the civilized world doesn't let their pancreas do those 2 jobs. Most people live in a constant carb processing world where their pancreas only ever does 1 job.
Now, I know this idea that you observed about this annual recommended diet. This influenced the development of Wildfit. What is that shift?
What it got us to recognize is that because we evolved to survive and thrive through specific seasons, it made us recognize we needed to teach people about that so that they could control that for themselves. And it's not a matter of what season they have in Minnetonka, Minnesota, or in Mumbai. It's the seasons that we evolve with. And so what we have to do is show people that they can turn on and off certain body functions. For example, there's a season that's really good for gaining weight, and there's a season that's really good for losing weight. And when we can show people how to trigger those seasons, we can help them achieve their health goals.
But these seasons are not corresponding to the calendar year. You trigger them internally in your body, regardless of where you are and regardless of what the month is.
Yeah, a very nice way to think of it is this, is that when you are in fall mode, when you're in fall mode, what you're doing is convincing your body that winter's coming, and so you'll want to store fat. In fall mode, your body knows to store fat. When you go into spring mode, your body knows to release weight. And so you can think of it like modes. Rather than think of it like corresponding with the calendar schedule, no, it's recognizing you can put your body into different modes, and you should.
I see. And this is one of the most unique things about Wildfit. It gives you such body mastery. You can decide, okay, I'm going to put my body into spring mode, and boom, you drop weight. So you can decide that, for example, one of the most interesting things I experienced is that about a year after doing Wildfit, it was Christmas, and I was in Europe with my family, and I put on about 1 kilogram because we were eating such incredible food. And this is very common after Christmas. And immediately, I put myself in spring mode in the first 2 weeks of January, and I dropped all that weight. And it was so easy. With Wildfit, you have this total mastery over your body, and that's one of the reasons why this is such a powerful program. So Eric, let's get started with some of the key ideas that we're going to be teaching. Now, before we get to some of the techniques, we first have to educate you, or rather, uneducate you from some of the lies and bad programming, false programming that you've been trained to believe growing up in the Western world in the presence of food companies and their billion-dollar marketing budgets. The first myth that we want to disrupt is the myth of exercise being the solution to losing weight.
Yeah, this is a really serious and dangerous myth. In order to understand it, let's go back to its origins. The origins of this myth are a bunch of soft drink companies recognizing that people were getting afraid of calories and therefore stopping buying high-calorie drinks. So they decided to create all these campaigns that said, no, you can keep sucking back our calories as long as you run fast enough, as long as you run far enough. That's where the myth came from. And the trouble is, like any good myth, it's just the slightest bit true. In theory, if you burned enough calories, you could lose weight. But in practice, it is not an effective method. And there's lots of reasons, but here's one. Most people are malnourished from eating not ideal foods to begin with, and then they try to run away from the calories, and they end up causing themselves all kinds of health consequences.
In a recent study, which was popularized by the magazine Vox, scientists found that as much as 80 to 90% of your body weight is determined by the food you eat and not exercise. In fact, check out this graph. This graph basically shows a fascinating occurrence. If you weigh 200 pounds and you decided that you wanted to lose weight and you started jogging for 60 minutes 4 times a week, guess how much weight you would lose at the end of 3 months? Now, when I asked that to most people, people said, well, I'd go from maybe 200 to maybe 170, 160. Turns out you will lose only about 5 pounds. That's negligible. That's how ineffective exercise is as a means of losing weight. But the reason we believe that is because big food companies led by Coca-Cola and Nestle push the exercise myth because they want you eating as much of their crap as you can. And then late night infomercials push the exercise myth because they want you buying as much exercise equipment as you can. When you go through Wildfit, one of the things you will notice is that you start changing your body shape, but there's no additional exercise. There's literally no exercise. When I did Wildfit, I just did an exercise, but I changed my body more dramatically than any exercise routine I was ever on.
There's 2 reasons that we don't have exercise as a core part of what goes on in Wildfit, and one is really simple. We want the program to be doable. We want to give them the maximum opportunity to succeed. And the other reason is this. For many people, intensive exercise is stressful, and stress creates cortisol, which causes them to retain weight.
Exactly.
So in a total ironic twist, here you are trying to outrun these miles, outrun these calories, and what you're really doing is raising cortisol levels to keep the fat on.
I love how you just explained that. One of the things I found in my food activism work is that many food companies do the following. They basically add sugar to make you eat more. And they suggest that the solution to you putting on fat is to exercise. And then they publish studies saying that, oh, no, sugar has nothing to do with weight gain. It's all about exercise. And one of the most prolific studies, the study that shows up on the front page of Google, literally says, no correlation found between sugar and weight gain. But guess who funds the study? If you scroll all the way down below, you will see that that very study is funded by, get this, PepsiCo and Weight Watchers. Both those companies in cahoots eat more of a horrible, poisonous, sugar-laden product and then spend money joining this vigorous exercise program that actually doesn't really work. Both of them are in cahoots. And this is why, if you look at the statistics, people, diabetes is on the rise, obesity is on the rise. It's a broken system, and billion-dollar companies are incentivized to keep you clueless. This is why I wanted to support you, Eric, and the work that you're doing in educating people.
It's incredibly important work, and you're absolutely right. We have been facing an incredibly dangerous and growing epidemic and pandemic of obesity and diabesity, as Dr. Mark Hyman calls it, diabesity, or the combination of the two. And it is all at the root at food. And you're absolutely right. The food industry, I don't think they intended to do this. They just intended to boost their profits. But the side effect is we're sick.
I know. And you mentioned Dr. Mark Hyman. He's one of the most prolific doctors in America. And I just want to acknowledge Mark Hyman wrote the foreword to your upcoming book because of how much he believes in what you're doing to help bring back health awareness to a world that has been lied to for so long. Now, we've talked about food companies, but there is another big insidious lie that causes so much stress and pain for people, and that is the diet industry. You've said many times that diets simply don't work. Now, we know this is true. In one study, only 1% of people who actually go on a diet see results. 1%. But people go through so much pain, so much money to get on these diets. Why is it that diets don't work?
Diets don't work because they're generally predicated on an immediately bad idea and then a bunch of more bad ideas. And what I mean is, they're first of all predicated on the idea that you just need to make some changes for a short period of time. Right? You go on a diet. It's a temporary thing. Well, right off the bat, that's an incredibly bad foundation for actually changing somebody's health. Then on top of that, they do things like tell you that, well, now what you need to do is you need to buy a bunch of expensive supplements, or you need to count your calories, or you need to exercise your way through the process. So they use myth after myth after myth. And here's where they really don't work. They damage your self-esteem. They give you a bunch of impossible rules to follow. They ask you to use your willpower to follow them. And then by day 3 or day 4, you're snacking, you're cheating a little bit over here, and then your self-esteem is down a little bit, and then you have a little bit of guilt or resentment, and then you need to feed that guilt or resentment, and nothing feels guilt or resentment better than sugar, and so you're eating the next thing, and the cycle begins, or continues, I should say. So the diet industry is, first of all, based on this incredibly bad idea, a short-term change to the way I live. And then it's based on all this bad science, most of which was funded by the food industry in the first place.
And so one of the things is, when you first said that, I didn't quite believe you. So I decided to do research. And this is one of the interesting articles I found. It showed it was a scientist who researched the results of that hit television show, The Biggest Loser. And what he found is that people who get on The Biggest Loser and they go through these rigorous diets and they lose weight, at the end of it, within a few months, they put that weight back on.
This is Dr. Kevin Hall. He's an expert on metabolism at the National Institutes of Health, and he conducted a 6-year study of contestants on The Biggest Loser.
Hey, Sam. Well, I can't speak to how they produce these shows. What I can tell you is that of the 14 contestants that we studied, 80% of them regained most of the weight that they'd lost.
But why? I don't understand. When you work out, you shed pounds.
When you go on one of these extreme diet and exercise programs, your body doesn't have enough food energy available, so it does burn body fat.
Right. Very thin-spiring.
Unfortunately, the body soon lowers its metabolism to offset that energy deficit. And that means that you'd have to keep exercising and dieting at this extreme rate just to maintain the weight loss.
Now, speaking of that, Eric, let's talk about calories. Do calories matter?
Calories, they don't matter. It's a terrible form of accounting. It's the kind of accounting, it's the type of accounting that's going to make a company go bankrupt. Like it's false accounting. There's a lot of reasons for it. First of all, calories are incredibly theoretical to begin with. The science itself is pretty vague. And the second thing is that the labeling requirements in calories is incredibly fuzzy. It's like, you know, when they estimate the number of calories, it's not correct. And then the other side of it is that it's almost like they treat calories like they're a thing, like it's a substance. No, it's a measurement. And that means that a calorie that you might gain from trans fats is different than the calorie you might gain from saturated fat, which is different from the calorie you might gain from sugar. So there's all these different types of calories. What we really have to pay attention to is this idea. Let's say you eat something and it's got 100 calories in it. We don't even do the math on how many calories it takes to get those calories out. It's just an incredibly bad form. But here's the biggest reason. One thing that we get from food that most people don't recognize, we know we get nutrients, we know we get energy, we know we get fiber, whatever. What we don't realize is that many of the foods we eat communicate with us. So we eat a food and we get a message. So you can eat a very low calorie thing, but if it is carbohydrate based, it's communicating with you to store fat. It's telling you to do that. So even though you're eating one type of calorie, this calorie here is a type of calorie that tells you to store fat. This calorie over here is a calorie that says, no, you should release weight. So the calorie myth is bad.
Calories are completely useless. Now, I had difficulty believing this because I was brainwashed to believe that counting calories was a thing. I had apps on my phone to help me count calories. Then, when you suggested to me that it was all a made-up thing, I decided to interview a couple of America's top health experts Dave Asprey, founder of Bulletproof, validated it. Calories don't exist. J.J. Virgin, another top American nutritionist, said that it's absolute rubbish. Like, just stop counting calories. Most people have come to realize this right now. A calorie of broccoli and a calorie of Coke are two completely different things. But if you go further, you'll see that even the US government standards for labeling calories, they allow food companies to be plus or minus 20%. That means what you think is 100 calories could be 80, or it could be 120. Even the labeling laws are fuzzy. Companies put calories because it is a convenient way for them to make you feel okay about a food. So you might go to Starbucks and you might see that they have a drink like a Frappuccino with 800 calories, and they have a drink which might have 200 calories. And so the 200 calories looks reasonable, but if that 200 calories is coming from milk and hazelnut syrup, that's gonna have an impact on your body. And that is not healthy. Calories are another convenient way for big food companies to lie to you. Stop counting calories. This is so counterintuitive, but I can tell you, in Wildfit, nobody gives a damn about calories, and people get astounding results.
Let me add to that. People are downloading health apps and all this kind of stuff. One of the first things is the minute you see an app, anything that you, a diet, a book, an app, or anything that says that you need to count calories or keep track of them, just throw that one out.
Yeah.
They immediately don't understand, and they're not going to get your results. We don't want you to count calories. We don't even want you to think about them. They're not relevant.
What about exercise routines that say you do this exercise and you burn X number of calories?
It's just all part of the same myth. Again, that myth is created by the food industry in order to justify high caloric food intake. So they're just basically saying, we want you to go out and exercise so you can feel good about buying our food and boosting our profits. That's ultimately what it's about. But again, it doesn't deal with the fact that there are good and bad calories. There are some calories, like refined sugar. Those are some really rough calories to be putting into your body. Whereas there are other healthy fats, for example, which are nice calories to put in your body. They're not the same thing. So counting calories, if you really want to count them, you'd have to like have columns of good and medium and not so good and not so bad, and this one, no. It's a bad science, and it has no place in the weight loss or in the health transformation business.
You know, and recently I experienced this. I was chatting with a friend of mine who grew up in my home country, Malaysia. Malaysia, by the way, horrible nutrition education, which is why I was in such bad shape at 40. Malaysia is the fattest country in Asia. Now, my friend was Malaysian and he moved to the United States. There, he lived for several years. And he, despite already being a little bit overweight in Malaysia, in the US, he put on 15 pounds. Then he relocated to Estonia, where we are filming this right now, a really healthy country where pretty much everything here is organic, everything here is healthy. And he told me in just 3 months, he dropped 15 pounds. And he said, Vishen, I don't know what it is. I'm eating the same foods. I'm eating the same amounts of what I was eating before, but I've dropped 15 pounds. And what I believe was really going on is that he was eating the right foods. And the foods here are not filled with so many of the pesticides and the other crap that you see in the American diet.
Yeah, we hear from a lot of our clients, like when we first started, people came to us with obvious health problems. But then as we got more and more well-known, people started coming to us and they didn't really have health problems. They just wanted to make things better. And the number of people who've written to us and said, I thought that I was eating healthy before. Like, we had this one woman write to us. She was 3.5 years into a degree, a nutrition degree. And she said, I thought I knew everything about this. I thought I was eating healthy before. But what she began to realize is that, for example, the difference in food regulations in America versus, say, the EU and Estonia are very different. But also, once you begin to understand the seasons, you can realize that too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Right. So you can be eating very healthy food, but if you eat too much of that healthy food, that's a problem. So it's not just about learning about nutrition, it is about learning about the cycles.
And now it's time to come to a very important point of Wildfit. This isn't a weight loss program. I know why you're here. You're here because you heard this is going to make you lose weight. Yes, it is, but this is so much more. Eric?
Well, that's absolutely true. I hate even admitting this out loud, but the truth is, when we first created Wildfit, it was a health transformation program, and our clients were 70% entrepreneurial men, 30% women. That was our breakup of our company. That's how we got it. And then one day you did the program, and you went out and put on social media.
I lost so much weight.
I lost all this weight, and because you had such huge reach, suddenly it became a huge weight loss program.
Right.
We've never seen it as a weight loss program. But it may well be the most effective weight loss program ever.
It is the most effective weight loss program ever. That's why Mind Valley backs Wildfit wholeheartedly. But let me show you something. Eric, this is a poll that one of your Wildfit coaches put in one of the many Wildfit communities all across the web. I believe this is a Facebook community. And 700 people took this survey, and the survey just says something along the lines of list what Wildfit did for you. Observe what people are saying. It improved fertility. It improved skin. They saw their energy go up. It improved injury recovery. It improved cognition. It improved psychology and moods. It improved depression. Look at the sheer number of people. Now, of course, like the top one is losing weight, but look at the percentage of people that are reporting all of these other things. And one of the most funny things we're seeing is that we're getting case studies from such a wide array of health transformation. Right here in Estonia, tell us about that chap who became a father thanks to Wildfit.
You know, he's a good friend and a good guy. He's one of our very early Wildfit clients from 5-6 years ago. And he and his wife had 2 children, and they wanted to have a 3rd child. And they'd been trying to get pregnant for ages, and they'd used all kinds of fertility treatments and all that kind of stuff. And the best way for me to tell you the story is I saw him speaking in Stockholm one day. I happened to be at an event, and he was on stage, and he was speaking. And his English is not so good, so this is the way he tells the story. He's standing on stage, and he says, "Me and wife try get pregnant after 5 years. No babies, no babies. I come home one day after Wildfit, wife tell me he pregnant." Of course, you know, they mess up the he and the she sometimes, but he's like, it turns out that after 5 years of trying all the other treatments, and they'd given up, they'd completely given up, but then he got his body right. And here's his pictures. Like, his before-after transformation is so striking that a friend of his from the military bumped into him and said, "My God, you haven't changed a bit." And he said, "You should see the middle picture." You know, he had completely changed his body, but the effect of that was to improve fertility, and they ended up having a baby.
Wow. That's incredible. And they named the baby Eric.
They did, in fact, name the baby Eric right here in Tallinn.
Now tell us about psychology, moods, depression, because there's a striking number of people who go on Wildfit and their permanent moods shift.
Yeah, our food has so much to do with our emotional experience of the world. I really believe that anybody doing any therapeutic work in the space of sadness and depression and so forth should be beginning that journey with nutrition. And I didn't know that when we started, but when you look at the poll you showed, the 3rd highest rated benefit of doing Wildfit was increased sense of well-being. And of course, the extremes of that are people telling us that they've been suffering with depression for years. One of our clients, Lucas from Canada, told us, and this is quite shocking, he came to a talk of mine in Calgary, Alberta. And he came to that talk having made the decision that if he didn't turn his life around by the end of the year, he was out. He was committing suicide. He'd made it really clear. And then he came in and he did the Wildfit program. He completely changed his body, his experience of life. And today, he's one of the most vibrant, vivacious, amazingly fulfilled people I know. And he's happy. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll go on a diet because I'll lose weight. No. What we want to do is transform our relationship with food so that we can feel better and be happier.
Right. Now let's talk about the science behind this, right? So we know today that what you eat is going to influence your gut bacteria. One of the most interesting things that developed in terms of scientific discoveries over the last 20 years is how much of our body is regulated by our gut bacteria. So you have more bacterial cells in you than human cells. 3 to 4% of your body weight is bacteria in your mouth and primarily your gut. Now, the interesting thing is we're beginning to understand that the gut bacteria influences our brain and our emotions. Let's take the chemical serotonin. Serotonin is a mood chemical that creates more resistance to stress. It makes you happier. Today we know 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. It's produced in your gut and it goes up to your brain. But if you're eating the wrong food, you're messing up your gut bacteria and your moods are impacted. We know that today, but we didn't know that like 10 years ago. So many old-fashioned diets are completely clueless on that modern science. When you go into something like Wildfit, your gut bacteria improves, and this is one of the reasons why so many Wildfitters talk about changes in their relationships, changes in their moods, changes in their tolerance to stress. It's because they are seeing a permanent shift in their emotional state. Food has that effect on you. Now, let's do a quick recap, okay? So if you could take away 3 things from what we've covered so far, these are 3 things to keep in mind. Number 1, the food industry and the diet industry and the exercise industry are, in a way, in cahoots. I'm not saying these are run by malicious people. It's just the way it is. And what's going on here is that it starts off with bad food marketing, companies like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is probably one of the biggest culprits. And then there's an exercise industry and a diet industry that has emerged, and all of them are supporting a false dynamic of how human health operates. It's time to discard all of these obsolete ideas and move to a new way of thinking about our health. Now, the second thing you want to understand is that exercise is not the answer. Exercise can improve your heart health. Exercise is great for your moods. It's great for endurance and fitness levels and musculature. But if you want to primarily change your body shape, 80 to 90% of your body shape is due to the food that you eat. And the third thing to keep in mind is that food is not just about calories. It's not, in fact, discard calories. Don't even bother with them. Food is going to influence more than just your body shape. It's going to influence your energy levels, your cognition, your moods, your food. Eric, how would you explain that?
I think you're doing really well. I think that one of the things that we know is that the food that we eat makes up our physical body. You are what you eat, and all that sort of thing. But I think the thing that most people don't recognize is your food is your mood. Like, your food is your mood. It's so crazy, but people will go and eat something because they think it'll make them feel better. And it might make them feel better for 4 minutes.
Right.
But then it will make them feel worse. And that's why the cycle's beautiful, because when they start to feel worse, then they'll eat more of that food, and the cycle continues. So I think it's absolutely important to remember, yes, we eat food for nutrition, and we eat food for energy, but we also eat food for our sense of happiness and our sense of well-being. The question is, are you eating for short-term happiness or long-term?
Amazing, amazing. So now we're going to go deeper in that. When you understand the nuances of Wildfit, you're going to learn about the methodology that Eric brought into Wildfit. What is it called again?
Behavioral change dynamics.
Behavioral change dynamics that actually change your relationship with food. You stop craving and you unbrainwash yourself from programming implanted in you from the time you were a child to eat things that make food companies wealthy but actually make you sicker. We're going to come to that in a moment. Now, an important point here, I'm going to give you a moment. You've heard so much right now about how what you eat and your relationship to food can transform your life. Why is this knowledge important to you? I want you to open up your journals, and I'm going to give you a minute, and I want you to write down, why is it that changing your relationship with food matters to you? I'm going to give you a couple of clues if you're writing this down. Is it because you want to look better? Feel better? Is it because you want to grow your confidence? Is it because you want to be free and liberated from cravings that you know don't serve you? Is it to come out of a depression? Or to clear your skin? Is it to recover from an injury? Or to heal faster from an illness? Is it to look good on the beach? There are many reasons, but what you're about to embark upon is probably one of the most transformative experiences of your life. 3 months from now, you will not recognize yourself. Wildfit is like going through years of transformation overnight with an amazing mentor, teacher, and coach. Now, before we go into the next part of this masterclass, where we're going to actually teach you some of the techniques that Wildfit is built upon, I first want to address some of you who might have given up on your health. Some of you who might go, you know, this has never worked for me. Why is it going to work now? So there are 5 common questions that come up, and I want to ask Eric to address them. The first one is, I failed at diets before. How is this different?
Wow, honestly, I get upset when people say that to me. Not at them, of course. I get upset at the fact that they've been let down again and again and again. We've now had thousands and thousands of people do this program from all over the world. And every single time I hear this, I had given up. I had promised I'd never do another one. I am so glad I gave this one a chance. Wildfit works.
Second question is, does Wildfit mean having to take supplements or some type of like ancillary food product that's expensive?
No, we don't have any additional supplements to sell or food products to sell. We will address the discussion about what kind of supplements somebody might need, but we are not here to sell. There are none required. In fact, most of our clients, when we've surveyed them, have found that they have saved over $500 a year on excess supplements and prescription medications they've been taking.
$500 a year, average savings after Wildfit. That's incredible, and that adds up over a lifetime. Number 3, is this going to involve a lot of exercise?
No, I hope not. I mean, we tell them right away in week 1, please don't do a lot of exercise.
There's no exercise,
We
right.
will tell people that they can do a limited amount of intentional movement if they
Right.
want, but there's no requirement for exercise.
When you get to week 7 of Wildfit, around week 7, your energy just shoots up. And then you want to move more, you want to exercise more. I had pull-up bars installed in my office because I kept wanting to do pull-ups because I had so much energy. But you don't need to. Now the next one is it going to be hard and restrictive? Because I don't know if I have the discipline. A lot of people ask this.
One of the key features of behavioral change dynamics is a principle we call minimum opportunities to fail. I believe that any program that is designed to damage your self-esteem by giving you a set of rules that you can't possibly follow, which means you're going to slip a little bit here and slip a little there, is going to damage your self-esteem. Wildfit is constructed on the basis that we use incremental lifestyle transformation. So you're making small incremental changes. So if you were to jump into the program in week 6 or 7 or 8, you might find that a little bit more challenging, but we will get you there each step of the way incrementally.
I was surprised at how easy it was because when you think of where you're going to be at week 8 or 9 or 10, if you're just jumping there, it's going to be tough. But week 1, week 2, you build it up using a really interesting psychology where changing your habits becomes so natural and so easy. And everyone is doing this as a community. Now, the final thing is, I'm a vegetarian. Does this apply to me?
Absolutely. Wildfit's done incredibly well in India, and many of our clients are vegetarians. Here's why. Wildfit is really comprised of 2 things: nutritional education and behavioral transformation. Now, people can take or leave what they want from the nutritional education piece. So we might recommend that there's certain types of proteins that you can get from eggs, for example, but if you don't want to eat eggs, you don't have to. The behavioral change aspect of it, the psychology part, will work for anybody who's trying to change their relationship with food. Hence, we have many vegetarian clients.
Right. Thank you, Eric. What I can say that I'm really surprised about is that it's now been 4 years and I'm still in my Wildfit body. What happens after Wildfit is that you literally feel free. The best way of describing this feeling is you're free. Like when Wildfit changed my entire company. I used to be the boss that sometimes I'd show up to work and I'd bring Krispy Kreme donuts. I thought I was being a good boss. I was thinking about my staff. Now I wouldn't dream of poisoning them like that. And even if I did bring Krispy Kreme donuts and I tried to test once, I put it in the kitchen. No one in my office touched it. Maybe there was one guy who was a new guy who hadn't got on Wildfit and he ate half a donut. But what we do in our office right now, we don't even have sugar by the coffee machine. Nobody uses it. But we have ample nuts, ample fruits, all the healthy stuff. And people crave that. And when we have an office party, it's no longer just wine. People drink a lot less alcohol, but a lot of sparkling water, a lot of like water with lemon. And no one misses the old way. Everybody relishes how fit and healthy they feel. And I've seen these shifts last 4 years among hundreds of people. And that's what is so fascinating about Wildfit. A transformation is defined as a permanent, irreversible shift in your worldview. Diets don't transform. Diets manipulate. Wildfit creates true human transformation. It makes a new you. Now, speaking of transformation, let's talk about health transformation and the 8 needs of human beings.
So health transformation is based on this idea. Your body wants to be healthy. I mean, it ultimately wants to be healthy. And what's happening for most of us is that we have environmental things that are making health difficult for us, like overstressed work or mold in our house and that kind of stuff. So our job is to make sure that we create the best possible environment around us to be healthy. But then it becomes an inside job. We have to look at our bodies. Like, imagine you and I are going to go on a long drive. Here we are in Tallinn. We're going to drive to London, let's say. We're going to go take the car in. We're going to make sure it's got the right gas, it's got the right oil, it's got the right brake fluid. Like, we're going to make sure all of its needs are being met because we don't want the car to break down on the way. Well, that's how we need to look at our bodies. If we want our bodies to operate optimally, I mean mind, heart, body, soul, if we want it to operate optimally, we got to go and give it all its needs. So we have compiled this list of 8 physical needs of the body. They're in order of priority, urgency first. So of course, the number 1 need of the body is air. Now, it's not actually air, it's oxygen. And so a lot of people go, wait, why do you need to tell me that? I'm breathing all the time. Yeah, except most of us are breathing in a way that generates stress. We're breathing in a way that prey animals breathe. We're breathing quietly. shallow in the top of our lungs. And so that is prey breathing. That you breathe that way so predators can't hear you. What you really need to do very regularly, at least several times a day, is a form of breathing that causes you to fill your entire lungs. So you, like the 5x5 breathing in Wildfit, or the Wim Hof breathing, or any number of those deep breathing exercises, because when you breathe deeply like that, you tell every cell in your body that you are safe, and you reduce your cortisol production. So it's not just about the oxygen, it's about the communication to the body. Then the next one, in order of urgency, is water. And again, people are like, yeah, but I drink enough. Yeah, but they're drinking things like coffee, Coke, milk, none of which are water. They need to be drinking water. They need to actually take water into their bodies and be hydrated. We are mostly water. Our brain is mostly water. Our bodies use water as a communication method. It's an electrolyte. We need to communicate with electrical signals. We need to be well hydrated. We need water to digest. We need water to speak. So we need to make sure we're taking in enough water. What kind of water? Everybody always asks, well, I say the wet kind. Like, at this point, of course, I might not want to be drinking water out of some municipal taps that I don't really like, but at this stage, I would be most concerned to make sure that I'm getting as natural water as possible. And these days, that should be mineral water, glacial runoff water, and tap water in countries like Estonia and Norway.
Thirsty.
What's that? Yeah, there you go. So that's the second need. The third need is for, now people always go, well, what about food? When's food gonna come on? Well, wait a minute now. You can only live without air for a few minutes. You can live without water for a couple of days, but you can live without food for weeks. The next one is sleep. Just ask the CIA if they want to get some information on it. They should deny you sleep for 3 days. Way better than waterboarding. You gotta have sleep. All the science is clear on this. Sleep is imperative to mental health. Sleep is imperative to weight loss. You lose your weight while you sleep. You literally breathe the fat out while you're sleeping. So if you're not sleeping properly, you're causing all kinds of issues. On top of that, your body does cellular repair. It does the repair work while you're asleep. So it's really important that for your mind and body that you get enough sleep. How do we do that? We make sure that we're in a nice dark room, maybe in a cool temperature. We turn off our screens 2 hours before we go to bed. We gotta sleep. The fourth need of the body is for fuel. Now, most of us are getting plenty of fuel. We are. We're getting plenty of fuel. We're just getting the wrong kind. So it's a matter of improving the quality of fuel we're putting in and switching our engine. Let me explain. You and I have talked about this so many times before. We can put in sugar and we can burn it. We can put in fat and we can burn it. We can put in protein and we can burn it. We can turn all of those things into sugar and all of those things into energy. We can do that. But when we live predominantly on sugar, like most people do, their moods will be up and down, and their blood sugar will be up and down, and their immune system will be up and down. It's not an ideal way to live. So what we want to do is make sure that we're putting in really good quality fats, and that we live a lifestyle that trains our body to be able to burn both fat and sugar, where most people are stuck in a single mode. So when we talk about the fourth need, it's not only improving the quality of the fuel that we take in, but it's also a matter of turning our lifestyle around so that we burn the right fuel. The fifth need of the body, very much related to this, is physical movement. Now, this may seem obvious. We have to move. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. You got to move to keep your muscle density and all this kind of stuff. Right, great. We can talk about that. You got to have strength training. It's got to be important. Like you need muscle density. Improved muscle density, improved metabolic health, improved immune response. You have to have cardiovascular health. You have to make sure your heart and lungs are good. And you need flexibility. What is getting old if not just simply losing flexibility? But here's the thing most people don't understand about movement. You see, you have a heart and you have a diaphragm. Those are pumps. And they're there to pump oxygen, basically, around your system through blood, because it's urgent that you do that. You can only survive minutes without it. Lymphatic fluid is not urgent. It's only important. And you must circulate it around your body. But because it's not urgent, we don't have a pump. Our movement is the pump. So we need to move our bodies around to move lymphatic fluid around, because lymph cleans our cells. So movement is important for more than just physical fitness. It's also important for cleansing the body. The sixth need of the body is sunlight. I don't know what happened in 1962 when suddenly the sun became evil. You know, I know exactly what happened, is that some sunblock manufacturing company decided that they could frighten the hell out of us about the sun and cause us to lather ourselves up. And let me be very clear. If you are a light-skinned person and you are equatorial, you may well burn. It's dangerous for you to get too much sun. But if you're a dark-skinned person and you're here in Estonia or Norway, you're not going to get enough sun. Our skin has something to do with that. Either way, we got to have sunlight. Why? It's incredibly good for your immune system. It is incredibly good because it helps you to create vitamin D. Much of the research that came out after COVID said that the people who are far more likely to pass away from COVID were massively vitamin D deficient. So vitamin D is incredibly important, and it's not something you can readily eat to take in. It's something your body makes, and you make it through exposing yourself to sunlight. The seventh physical need of the body is pretty straightforward. It's non-energy nutrients. So we eat food for fuel, right? But we also eat fuel for building blocks. So there are 13 essential vitamins that we have to get. There are 16, plus or minus, depending on how you measure the minerals that you need. There are 20 amino acids that we need. Now, we can make 11 of those amino acids, but the other 9, we can't make them. We need to eat them. So getting those non-energy nutrients in is incredibly important. One of the principles of Wildfit is that your health is far more determined by you getting enough of the good stuff than by you eliminating the bad stuff. One example is, let's say we put somebody on the perfect diet and they get all those vitamins, all those minerals, all those amino acids, and everything else they need, but we remove the vitamin C, and they never eat anything bad. They never have a single toxic thing ever. They will still get skin sores, they will develop scurvy, and they will die because they were missing that one really important vitamin. So it's really important that we get those non-energy nutrients in a seasonal fashion. And the eighth need of the body is incredibly important, and that's community. Physical touch and community. The research on this is really clear. We know that if you take an infant away from the parents and they don't get a lot of connection, there's all kinds of failure to thrive syndrome issues that come up. But the study that really put me onto this was noticing that in chimpanzee troops, where they, they're always picking at each other, right? They're only allowed to do that to a chimp that's equal to or greater in social rank to them. So the lowest ranking chimpanzees in the troop do not get that affection. They do not get that connection. And they live the shortest lives of the troop. It's sort of a Darwinian way of making sure they don't pass on their bad genes. And so it's really important for us that we have strong community around us and that we get good physical touch in our lives, holding hands, hugs, and other physical touch.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And what I appreciate about how you designed Wildfit is that all of these things are incorporated in Wildfit. Okay, there's no physical touching in Wildfit, but there is community. People take Wildfit as a class. Thousands of people join the class together. People are in these incredibly cooperative online communities. Everyone's helping each other. People are supporting each other with recipes, with ideas, with advice, and it's just so remarkable to see.
Yeah, we go back to the African proverb. You want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. And what we have found with our Wildfit community is they are incredible people. They bond together, they help each other, because you know how it is. Right. You can have an off day, and then that's the day you need somebody to lift you up so that you can lift them up.
So let's do a quick recap, okay? Air, water, sleep, fuel, movement, sunlight, non-energy nutrients, and community. Mainly physical touch. Now the next thing, Eric, that I want you to talk about, because this was fascinating to me, is the sugar to fat engine. One of the things I notice about Wildfit is that after you do Wildfit, I remember that time when I put on weight over Christmas, I was able to lose it so fast because the very way my body operated had changed. And you explained to me that Wildfit had flipped my engine from a sugar-burning engine to a fat-burning engine. Please explain.
Yeah, one way to think of it is really that it is these two different fuel sources. So sugar is a hot, fast-burning sugar source. So you eat some sugar and you instantly feel good and you've got a peak of energy. But then when that energy's gone, it's gone. One way to think of it is that to run a marathon apparently takes something like 1,700 calories, and the average person holds about 2,500 calories worth of blood sugar, or sugar in their blood. And that's why at about 17 miles of the marathon, they hit the wall and they can't run down any further because they're sugar burning. Nowadays, the ultra marathoners have all figured this out. You run on fat. You train your body to burn fat rather than sugar, and you can run multiple marathons in a row. A friend of mine ran the Marathon des Sables, which is 9 marathons in 7 days in the Sahara. Like, you can do that. And I've had the same experience of climbing Kilimanjaro in a fat-burning state. Made it the easiest climb I've ever done.
Wait, now that's worth mentioning. You climbed Kilimanjaro, which highest mountain in Africa, and it was a 3-day climb, and you did that while fasting.
Yeah, so I've done it 7 times, and on one of the trips, I decided to fast my way up the mountain. So what that meant was I had only broth on the way up the mountain, broth and water, and it was the easiest of my 7 climbs, by far. The amount of energy I had was phenomenal. Now, normally, they'll make you eat popcorn and
where
rice.
Were you getting the energy from?
I was getting the energy from my existing fat stores, because as we have 2,500 calories of blood sugar, we have 250,000 or 200,000 calories of fat on our bodies all the time. The way to think of it in a way is that it's like your fat is a long-term deposit. It's put there for a rainy day. And so sometimes your body needs to be convinced, almost like the bank manager needs to be convinced to let you get the long-term deposit out. Your body's a bit like that. It's like, Well, I've been storing this for the winter, Vishen. I need to hold on to it for a while. And you need to convince it that no, winter's not coming, and I'm allowed to have this energy. And when you do, you get this really smooth running energy. Wow. Suddenly sleep is better. There's no tired at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, you know, I'm 50 years old. I'm on stage 15 hours a day, 5 days in a row. And people are like, where are you getting the energy? Well, I have it.
Right, and so that's something really interesting that I want you to note. You are retraining your body to burn fat rather than sugar. And so the extra fat that you have around, it starts burning away. Now, these are pictures of my transformation on Wildfit. I took these pictures across several weeks. These were the pictures I could find. Observe from week 1 to 3 to 6 to 9, all the way to the end. Observe how the fat is disappearing. I literally felt like I was melting. You are training your body to burn off that fat. All of us carry roughly around, now again, calories don't really matter. You shouldn't be counting calories, but I'm using the word here to make things simple to understand. You carry around 250,000, 250,000 calories of fat in your body that your body can burn when it needs to. And when you train your body to burn this fat, you don't put on that much fat. Your body isn't necessarily carrying it, but there's a science to it, and it has to do with what we spoke about earlier, the 8 human needs: air, water, sleep, fuel, movement, sunlight, non-energy nutrients, and community. So Eric, follow-up question. Why do we have 2 fuel sources?
I think we have 2 fuel sources because our ancestors had to live through different seasons, like we talked about before. So if you have a season where there's a lot of carbohydrate-rich foods, there's root vegetables, there's berries, there's honey, and all that sort of stuff, then at that point, the body's going to say, well, I've got this sugar, it's readily available. So the pancreas is going to go, let's produce insulin, and we're going to take that sugar, and we're going to have instant access to it. But it's like, I'm eating it, and I'm burning it. I'm eating it, and I'm burning it. But if you, well, let's say you eat more than you can burn, then what does your body do? Well, it says, well, I'll store some. And that's good timing, because if there's a lot of root vegetables and berries on the trees, what do we know is coming next? Winter, drought. So it's really good timing that our body had learned this trick. So, okay, we're eating a lot of carbohydrates, we're producing a lot of insulin, we burn what sugar we can, but the surplus sugar we store in our muscles as glycogen, and we store in our bodies as fat. And so if we continue eating those foods, then we're going to continue triggering fat gain. But then when the winter is over and we've survived it, then our body wants to put the fat down. It wants to release it. Why does it want to carry it around? And so not only do we want to switch the energy or switch the fuel system for our own energy, we want to switch it so we can burn the winter fat off.
It's like Wildfit is the operating manual for your body.
I like it.
Because when you start understanding these things, it becomes so easy to stay in shape, so easy to keep your energy high, to keep cravings at bay, to not put on weight again. And that's something I really appreciate about how you teach. And I know we may be going really fast for you guys. Those of you who go into the full Wildfit program, you're going to go so deep into this science, you are going to have full mastery over your body, your emotions, your health, your sleep. It's going to be remarkable, and I'm so excited for you. But I do want to give one warning. Okay, the hardest part for me in Wildfit was the shift between week 6 and 7. See, it's between week 6 and 7 when your body suddenly realizes that you're getting it to stop being addicted to sugar, and then it's okay to burn fat. And for different people, it takes a different amount of time for that engine to switch. For me, it took about 2 days. And for that 2 days, I felt really weak. It wasn't like bad. It was more like, you know, like as weak as you feel when you maybe have a mild flu, but it was a different feeling. So Eric, explain what's happening in that crossover period between week 6 and 7 when your energy starts shifting from sugar burning to fat burning.
Okay, so as we've discussed, in a sense, you have these 2 modes. You've got the fat burning mode and you've got the sugar burning mode. And if you switch between them regularly, then your body's good at that. Like, it just switches between them. And there's 2 things that might have an influence on whether the switch is easy for you. The one is your lifestyle. So if you were living a lifestyle where you can switch easily, in other words, there were times when you were having lots of carbs and times when you weren't, then maybe the switch is easy for you. And the other one has to do with epigenetic expression. In other words, maybe the way your parents lived and the way you've lived your life so far. So what happens for some people is they live in that one mode, fall mode, for so long that the switch gets stuck. And it becomes hard for them. They can't They can't, and so what we have to do, and that's why maybe about 10% of our clients will go through a tough time during that week 6 or 7 moment you're talking about, where they might have a little low energy or a little bit of a skin rash, a little bit of an itch, that sort of stuff, as their body's fighting through this process. But the good news is, once they get the switch over and they go into fat burning, they have either a sudden surge of energy or they get this dimmer switch thing where they just like, each day is a little better and a little better and a little better. But the really good news is, the first time it's really hard. And the second time it's a little easier. And then the third time, and pretty soon you can just switch back and forth.
Yeah, it's so easy. You know, after you put on weight over Christmas, as many people do, or many people put on weight during the quarantine, you can switch so fast. When I stepped out of quarantine, while the average American had put on like, what, 16 pounds, I was at my same weight. Because I flipped my switch on the last day of quarantine in 1 week. And I cannot wait for you guys to have that experience. But know that for some people, it can be a little bit tough between week 6 and 7, okay? But it's well worth it for around 10% of the people who take Wildfit. We're all different in some way. Now, let's actually expand what is happening during Wildfit. Like, what exactly is going on? The science of how you get people there, that's what's really interesting. Tell us about that.
Vishen, when I was a kid, I had the most phenomenal teacher in grade 3, Mr. Kolchinsky, and of all my teachers, he had a different ethos, and his ethos was that my learning was his responsibility. He just, all the other teachers are like, your learning is your responsibility, the student's responsible. Mr. Kolchinsky wasn't like that, and I actually wanted to be a teacher when I left school, and for a number of reasons I didn't go that way. But when I started teaching business, and when I then created Wildfit, I made it very clear to myself I wouldn't teach anything that I couldn't take responsibility for the client's transformation. Like my view is when somebody does Wildfit, it's not up to them. It is up to them too, but it's up to me to give them the education in the right way and the transformation in the right way for the change to be easy for them. It's my job for them to remember and transform. And so when I created Wildfit, I started with that premise. So I could have just written a book, like everybody says. Everybody's like, why haven't you written a book? Because they don't work. You know, they just, as a diet book, diet books just hurt trees as far as I can tell. What I wanted to do is do something that really worked. So I sat down and took a look and said, how can I take responsibility? We constructed the program in very specific parts that do very specific things. And Vishen, what's crazy is, and you know this, people come into the first week, and honestly, at first, they think I'm crazy. Because what we do in that first week is so different than anything they've ever done in a diet before. And people are so weird, they're like, this is too different. Well, don't you want different results? In the first 2 weeks, we are all about food psychology. So for the first 2 weeks of the program, people are getting daily videos, bite-sized videos, they're not very long.
10 minutes, 5 days a week.
Yeah, just on the weekdays, and they guide them through very specific psychological exercises that are designed to improve their consciousness. They're designed to get the food angel and the food devil kind of talking to each other and getting on the same side. And over the course of that 2 weeks, we are laying a foundation for permanent transformation. 2 weeks of food psychology, that's what lays the foundation for people to be able to change permanently.
And then what happens week 3 onwards?
Week 3, we switched to videos every Friday and every Monday, and this is magical. This is one of those examples where we had to make a change in the program for logistical reasons, and it improved the program dramatically. We used to, every Monday, we would announce that there were going to be some changes that week. But then people started going, yeah, but I do my shopping. So we moved it, and we put the announcements on Friday. So we on Friday, we might say, well, Vishen, you need to take a holiday from purple foods with yellow spots for next week.
Right.
So now when you go shopping over the weekend, you know you're not to buy any. But the beautiful thing we did is over the weekend, the rules or the holiday that you take are optional, and it creates something called the buffer zone, which is incredibly psychologically important to the program. Many people have their biggest breakthroughs after we've said, come Monday, here is the holiday you're going to be taking from this food group. And over the weekend, what do you do about that? And they learn so much about themselves. So they get a video on Friday telling them about the change, and a video on Monday giving them some tools to make their way through that week.
And during the buffer zone, they can eat as much of that food as they want.
That's exactly right. Or not. And that's the thing. It's interesting to see what they do. Then that happens from week 3 all the way to week 12.
So week 3 to week 12, you're getting people to make a tiny change week by week in how they are eating.
That's right. And we call it incremental transformation, because what's going on is instead of handing them a bunch of rules that they clearly couldn't follow that would simply damage their self-esteem, we give them an incremental change in week 3.
It becomes so easy because you're also applying the BCD model, behavioral change dynamics.
That's right.
Which means you are unprogramming them, and so the cravings that you would have felt before are no longer plaguing you.
Vishen, we've polled people after week 3, and we've said, how many of you, this is the longest you've ever been on a diet or nutrition program? It's 80% of them.
Yeah.
80% of them, because people can't make it that low. In our case, they make it all the way through.
They make it all the way, 80 to 90% complete Wildfit. Now, what I noticed though is that I didn't lose weight until week 7. It seems that the first 6 weeks, something is changing, and then week 7 onwards, it's as if you're melting. What's going on there? And why does it occur so suddenly?
The best metaphor is it's kind of like you can drive past a construction site for a few weeks and you wonder what they're even doing. Nothing's going on,
Right.
nothing's going on. And then you drive by another day and there's a building.
Right.
Well, that's because for the weeks before they were laying the foundation. It was work you couldn't see. So those first few weeks, especially the first 2 weeks, and then weeks 3, 4, and 5, we're laying foundation and making incremental changes that are setting you up for the fuel switch. And that's why by the time you get into week 6, 7, and 8, you start seeing really radical body transformation.
And typically by week 12, you're transformed.
Yeah, I would say by week 9, people are absolutely clear that their health trajectory is completely improved forever after that.
Yeah, like I found that by week 10, I had hit my peak transformation. I was amazed. Week 11 and 12 were just bonus. I got slightly healthier.
And remember, our clients come in at different starting points. Like there
Yeah.
are some clients that come in and they've got 300 pounds to lose. They're not going to lose the 300 pounds in the 90 days. Their transformation is going to take place
Exactly.
in the weeks, in the months that follow. But they will psychologically be complete at about week 9 or 10. They will know that their life is never going to be the same. In the final week, we have, again, daily videos.
Now, the final week is week 13. It's a 3-month program. 3 months is actually 13 weeks. So in the final week, which is week 13, it's called Living Wildfit.
Living Wildfit, and it's something we added in this version of Wildfit that's with Mindvalley, and that is, it's teaching you how to take the principles into the future.
Right.
It's daily videos guiding you through things that we call Wildfit ratios and different hacks and tools you can use to keep yourself on track going deep into the future. And the best thing about it is, the entire program is supported by live coaching calls every week.
Right, more on that in a bit. But first, I hope that gives you an overview of what Wildfit is like and why it's a change and a transformation that truly lasts. Just check out all the stories on stories.mindvalley.com. Hundreds of stories from people who have completely transformed their health and their lives because of Wildfit. And look, you can try this program, and if you feel that this isn't up to what you're expecting, you can give yourself a quick and easy refund. At Mindvalley, we know our programs are the best in the world, so we make refunding super easy. Simply go to mindvalley.com/refund. That's it, mindvalley.com/refund. Click and give yourself a refund. Look, if you were buying a house, you would want to go in the house. You'd want to see what the house looks like. You'd want to explore that house yourself. I'm not asking you to make up your mind right now. I'm asking you to just go into the program. Dive in, take a look at some of the lessons, observe the community, see people's excitement, see how it's structured, and then decide. And if you decide this isn't for you, you don't have to call a phone number, you don't have to mail a letter. Just go to mindvalley.com/refund. It takes 2 minutes to fill out the form, click submit, and you get every cent back. It is that easy. At this point, you are sort of at a fork in the road. You've learned a lot from this masterclass. We have disrupted and challenged some of the old presumptions you've had about exercise, about food, about calories. And that itself is going to make a difference in your life. And feel free to dig in and do the research. Do the research on everything you're saying. Look up the scientific studies. But remember, if you see scientific studies that seem to counter what we're saying, scroll down below and look at the names who are funding those studies. You will see studies funded by Coca-Cola, by Nestle, by PepsiCo, by Weight Watchers. Make sure you look at the people funding the study, okay? So that's an extremely important tip. Try that out yourself. Now, the vast majority of you are gonna sign up for Wildfit. And like me, your life is gonna be changed permanently. And I do mean permanently. Like me, in the next 3 months, you're gonna see your body and your health shift so much. You are basically gonna be a new person. And your friends are gonna be asking you, what happened to you? And remember, recommend Wildfit to your friend. Most of the people who are here heard about Wildfit from a friend or family member, and they probably told you about Wildfit because you went up to them and asked them, what did you do with your health? I had people asking me if I had plastic surgery because my face looked so different. Now, some of you are gonna go, okay, this is enough. I've tried diets before, they fail. I don't know if I can do this. And I want you to know this. You have nothing to lose. You have absolutely nothing to lose. You can try out Wildfit, and it's so easy. It's so easy. Remember, we have an 80 to 90% completion rate. And even if you failed before at a diet, that's not your fault. Diets are a broken system. This is not a diet. This is a complete health makeover. And this man is a genius at getting people from the starting line to the finishing line. And you're going to be part of a community that's super supportive. And as you're going to see next, we're putting in special processes to help take you through. We do not leave anyone behind. And when you go through that shift, this will be one of the most joyous moments of your life. I cannot express to you how much Wildfit has been worth to me. And when we first started offering Wildfit, it was $1,500. We dropped the price. It's now 60% cheaper because as 10,000 people have got on. My most productive year, Eric, the year in which I had the fastest growth in my company was the 12 months following me taking Wildfit. And it's remarkable. And I wonder, could this be because of what the science is saying, that when I lose extra fat, my brain cognition is better, and so I'm making better decisions as an entrepreneur? I wonder, but I know this is true for many people. This ends up being one of the most valuable investments you can make in your life. So I want you to make a decision. Don't wait. Don't skip out on this. Scroll down and you'll see that to make this super easy for you, we've given you a special unlock price. It's only on this page. It's only available now. If you close this page, you don't get that price. That is a thank you for investing the past hour with us, watching this masterclass. And we want to make it a no-brainer for you because we know when you go through this, you're going to bring in 10 other people. Because the coolest thing about Wildfit is the transformation is visible for everyone. Recently, we had one of the senior leaders of one of the biggest companies in the world, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They employ 250,000 people. He was a runner, but he'd never lost a lot of his extra weight. When he did Wildfit, he lost 20 kilograms. He got 1,000 employees under him in Buenos Aires, Calcutta, and other regions to take Wildfit because of how much it changed his life. One man brought 1,000 people into Wildfit. And so we want to make this a no-brainer for you. The first 2 weeks are, in fact, surprisingly easy. You can jump into this and you have no excuse. It's just 10 minutes a day. You can easily set aside 10 minutes a day because this is going to be the most valuable 10 minutes a day of your life. But get started, and once you jump in, make that commitment for 10 minutes. Eric is going to do the rest, and he's going to take you through all 12 weeks because this man is sticky. You will not be able to keep your eyes off him. He is one of the most remarkable teachers and speakers I've ever seen, and he will take you all the way to the finishing line, along with our community. Mentally say a yes, or an amen, or hell yeah, if you agree with the following statements, if you've gotten the gist of what we've been talking about. Number one, the food industry is not on our side. They are not on our side at all. They do not give a damn about our health. Number two, people don't fail diets. Diets fail people. It's a broken industry selling you a broken product. Number three, willpower doesn't work as a long-term strategy. There are better ways to change your behavior around food. Number four, your health is important now. This is not something you postpone. Your health is at the forefront of everything else you do. It'll improve your relationships. It'll improve your parenting. It'll improve your work. You do not postpone this. And number five, if there's anything we have learned over the last couple of months with COVID-19 and everything going on in the world, is that good health is now a matter of life and death. We know that if you are obese, if you are sickly, if your immunity is compromised because you're eating the wrong food, you are more likely to get severely sick if you were to catch COVID. And right now is the best time to really be paying attention to your health. You want to do this for yourself and your family. Now, scroll down below and you'll see that you can easily sign up for Wildfit. It is super, super, super easy, but a couple of things. Firstly, notice how we've dropped the price from $1,500. That is a thank you for investing this time with us. Next, if you scroll down below this webinar, you'll see that we've created some special bonuses for those of you who join Wildfit now. The first bonus is this. Every single week, there's going to be a live coaching call. So we have incredibly well-trained Wildfit coaches, and they show up live every week, and you can join these calls and ask any question you want. So many of our users love these calls because there's nothing like face-to-face interaction with someone, and you literally get these on these calls. And also there's a ton of FAQ videos created by Eric for all of the little questions that you might have. All of this available to you. A coaching call that you can show up for every single week, as a bonus. And now as an added bonus, we're giving you a set of advanced videos. Each of these videos is a 45-minute or so deep dive into a particular topic of health. We're gonna look at dairy, alcohol, caffeine, meat eating, fasting, travel tips. All of these videos are going to be unlocked at certain moments of Wildfit. They are optional, but for those of you who want to go deeper, this is almost like an additional program with even more advanced psychology and tactics and tools and wisdom to transform your health. And again, Eric is such a compelling teacher. People love these additional programs. This whole bundle is worth $500. It is yours completely free with the Wildfit program. Now, something new. After you get past week 7 of Wildfit, you're going to be on our new Connections by Mindvalley app. What this means is that all the Wildfitters around the world are connected in their own private network. You can find Wildfitters in your country, in your city, and the advantage of this is that you actually make friends, Wildfitters, because they have a whole new view of their health. They want to hang out with other Wildfitters. You'll be surprised at what you see in the community. People sharing recipes, people organizing Wildfit brunches. You actually make friends. So we're building Wildfit chapters around the world. And in one particular town, like one of our Wildfit coaches had like 100 people in this little town take Wildfit together.
He did. He got the mayor involved. He created this whole campaign called Healthy Sault Ste. Marie, which is the name of the town. And it was incredibly successful. And it's exactly the kind of thing that we are seeing pop up around the world. We know that when people hang out with other people that are healthy, it makes it even easier for them to stay on track.
Right, and that's amazing. That's why we built this app. You actually make new friends. There's a study that shows that you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. And if you hang out with unhealthy people, you become unhealthy. If you hang out with healthy people, you become healthier. In fact, what was really interesting is that when I took Wildfit back then, my partner back then, she didn't take Wildfit with me. She was skeptical, but she lost 2 kilograms just because I was on Wildfit. And it took her a while to admit it, but she actually lost 2 kilograms in 3 months. And that was pretty darn huge. That's about 5 pounds. So we built this app so that you have a community that's going to be supporting you for life. I cannot wait to see you in the program. Eric, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I'm really thrilled that we get to bring this to so many people around the world. Well done, and thank you.
Thank you, Eric.